the standard thing would be, for me, would be drilling, then positional or specific training, and then using it in live rolling. But I think really you're bouncing back and forth between them. Ideally, first you want to, the drill should get you first just used to the movement. Like if you can't, I always say, if you can't do the steps, like if you can't like do just the technique properly on a compliant training partner, then you're not going to be able to do it in rolling, or you shouldn't be able to.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
But at the same time, I think if you just drill without trying it out with live resistance, then you have no context for how things should feel, or the directions where your pressures should be, the ways they're going to escape. Like once you've felt like, oh, like when I actually do this move against resistance, they're going to drive this way and that way, and I actually need to be like holding my grip a bit tighter. And you could, as an instructor, you could maybe explain in a lot of detail how you hold your grip, but until they've felt like the person escape a certain way and this and that, then it's going to be hard to get that across for someone who's drilling. So, so I always think like at first a mix between, you drill and then you'll do specific training and then you'll come back and drill. And then the drilling, I think being a good training partner for someone who's drilling is a bit of a skill too. It's at first just, at first you just kind of sit there if they've never done the move before, but as soon as they can do the move, you're going to want to like make sure you're giving good postures, good light reactions that simulate what someone would do if they were fighting you. But even though you're not fighting, you're giving them the feel as if, this is the direction they're going to be turning and this is the direction they're going to be driving, and you need to develop pressures that way. So I think wrestlers do that really well, and generally jiu-jitsu guys don't. So I think that's kind of a progression, and that almost becomes, at some point there's like that becomes specific training, as in like you're getting enough postures and resistance and so on that we do specific training. And I even, in my gym, I like to, sometimes I'm really specific with the specific training. Sometimes I'll say, all right, we're going live from here, but like person on top, you're only allowed to escape in this particular way. Like that could be for someone who's new to learning a technique, it's even a big jump to go from like, let's do a single leg X sweep to suddenly, which is with no resistance, to suddenly let's go live. And then now your partner can turn left, right, forward, back. That's still quite overwhelming. So you can sometimes say, okay, well now you've got to try and do the single X sweep, and the person on top has to try to backstep. And then it's a battle between those two, and they get to learn the adjustments required to stop someone backstepping while still trying to execute the move. And then they need to learn when you can do it again with like some of the other major common reactions. So I tend to like to put often more restrictions. I think the gap between the drilling or the sort of passive training to the live training is the biggest gap that we want to try to minimize with little restrictions like that.
People talk about persistence. It's not persistence. Okay, there's a lot of people out there who do the wrong thing very persistently and they get nowhere. It's intelligent, adaptive persistence. Yes, persistence is part of the formula, because if you're not there for long enough, skills take time. Okay, there's a whole scientific literature about the development of skills and how it's almost like an electrical wiring in the human body, and it occurs over time. But as I said, just doing the wrong thing repetitively isn't going to make you a world champion. So what kind of persistence is required? Well, it has to be adaptive. You have to be able to look at what you're doing and engaging in and assess whether it's working or not. Which parts are working, which parts are failing, why are they working, why are the other parts failing, and make adaptations over time so that you change your training structure in response to success and failure. And this has to be done along intelligently guided routines. And so it's not enough just to say, well, Gordon Ryan's just persistent. He just hung out in the gym long enough and he got good. Okay, no. It's because he's adapted the various things that he's tried through trial and error as time went by and looked for success and failure and paired out the various failures or tried to improve upon them and kept the various successes. And that idea of adaptive persistence is probably the single most important thing. Now, persistence itself is a value-laden term. You used a term that I love and is deeply embedded in martial arts before, Joe. You talked about discipline. Okay, persistence is a more wide-ranging way of talking about discipline. But discipline goes in so many different ways. It's not just about showing up to the gym and showing up to the workout. It's not just about being told to do 300 repetitions and doing all 300. It's also about discipline of thought. Okay? That's the most difficult form of discipline, to stay mentally engaged in the game. When you've been working out all day and you're dog-tired and all you want to do is go home and watch a movie, but you don't. And you sit back and ask yourself, what did I do today? Why did I succeed at A and why did I fail at B? And you research and you talk to your mentors and your fellow athletes and you puzzle things out and you solve problems. That's the kind of discipline that really comes in. It's more the mental discipline of mental engagement in the project and the ability to say what failed on Tuesday can be modified by this method, and this method, and it can succeed on Wednesday. Of building cumulative success over time while eliminating failure, of staying in the game, that's persistence, but making it adaptive so that as circumstances change and as the problems you've confronted with change, you're adapting to that change and intelligently directing it by asking yourself these questions. What is making this work and what is making this fail? How can I change this to my advantage? Okay, coming into the gym and just doing the same thing for a decade isn't going to make you better. What's going to make you better is progressive training over time where you identify clear goals marked out in time increments, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, and build those short-term goals into a program of long-term goals. Making sure that the training program changes over time so that as your skill level rises, the challenges you face in the gym become higher and higher. Don't kill them at the start with challenges that are too hard for them to deal with. They get discouraged and leave. Build them slowly over time, but make sure they don't just get left in a swamp where they're just doing the same thing they were doing 3 years ago and they get bored. And there's 2 ways you can leave in a gym. You can leave from adversity, it was too tough, or you can leave from boredom. Everyone talks about the first. No one talks about the second. Most people, when they get to black belt, they get bored. They know what their game is. They know what they're good at. They know what they're not good at. When they compete, they stick with what they're good at. And they avoid what they're not good at.
Yeah.
And they get bored. They reach a plateau, and that's it. My whole thing is to make sure it's not so tough at the start that they leave because of adversity. And then for the rest of their career to make sure it's not boring so they leave because of boredom.
Travis Stevens actually said something that changed the way I see training. He said it as a side comment, but he said that at the end of a good training session, your mind should be exhausted, not your body. And for most of my life, saw good training sessions where my body was exhausted.
Yes, I believe that's the case with most people. Yeah, you should come out of the training session with your mind buzzing with ideas, like possibilities for tomorrow. And by the way, on that note, I would go further and say that the training session doesn't finish when your body stops moving. It finishes when your mind stops moving, and your mind shouldn't stop moving. After that session, there should be analysis. What did I do well? What did I do badly? How could I do better with the things that I did well?